Elena sat on the worn wooden bench in the community garden of her small town, Oakwood Valley, a place she had called home for all her 35 years. The morning sun cast a golden glow over the rows of vegetables and flowers, but to her, the world felt gray and heavy. Just 6 months ago, she had lost her husband, Mark, to a sudden illness, a blow that shattered the life they had built together. As a freelance graphic designer, she worked from home, but her creativity had dried up, replaced by a constant ache of grief. The garden, once their shared sanctuary, now seemed like a monument to her loneliness. Her motivation to get through each day was fading, and she struggled with overwhelming self-doubt, wondering if she could ever rebuild a life without him. The initial challenge was immense, facing each sunrise without his laughter, dealing with financial worries as projects stalled, and feeling isolated in a town where everyone knew her story. She often found herself crying in the quiet moments, her heart racing with fear of an uncertain future. But deep down, a flicker of resilience urged her to take small steps, like tending to the tomatoes they had planted together, a task that felt both painful and necessary. Over the weeks, Elena began to notice the subtle changes in the garden and within herself. She started by forcing herself to join the weekly community gardening group, where neighbors shared stories and support. At first, she stayed on the edges, listening but not speaking, her emotions a tangled mess of sorrow and anxiety. She coped by focusing on the rhythm of digging and planting, letting the physical labor distract her from the mental turmoil. One day, while weeding a patch of lavender, she remembered Mark's words about how resilience isn't about avoiding pain but learning to grow through it. This sparked a shift. She began to journal her feelings, writing down memories and fears, which helped her process the grief instead of burying it. She faced moments of intense self-doubt, like when a client rejected her design, making her question her abilities, but she pushed through by reminding herself of past successes. Gradually, she started taking on small projects again, each one a step toward reclaiming her confidence. The emotional journey was rocky. There were days she wanted to give up, but the support from her community, like old Mrs. Gable bringing her soup or the kids next door asking for drawing lessons, reminded her she wasn't alone. She learned to lean on others, realizing that vulnerability wasn't a weakness but a bridge to connection. As the seasons turned, Elena's efforts blossomed. She initiated a community art project, using her skills to create a mural in the garden that celebrated local stories, including Mark's memory. This act of giving back empowered her, turning her grief into a source of inspiration. The climax came during the town's annual Harvest Festival, where she stood before the completed mural, surrounded by friends and neighbors. Tears welled in her eyes, not just of sadness, but of pride and hope. In that moment, she felt a profound sense of strength wash over her, the wisdom that loss had taught her to cherish each day and that her resilience had grown from the very ashes of her pain. She realized that healing wasn't about forgetting but integrating the past into a brighter future. The story concludes with Elena looking out at the sunset over the garden, feeling a renewed purpose. She had discovered that inner strength isn't something we're born with but something we cultivate through struggle, and that even in the darkest times, there is light in community and self-belief. Her journey leaves us with an inspiring message: no matter how deep the sorrow, we all have the capacity to rise, to transform our hardships into wisdom, and to find joy in the small, everyday moments that make life worth living.